All right, we live.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 40 of the MMAHOLIcs. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Uh, Always love doing this show. We've been doing it for a while now, breaking down all these fights, all this violence. Of course, it's martial arts. Martial arts filled with humility at the end of the day. But of course, we do love watching the boys and girls throw some punches. But of course, I cannot do this without my main man, Nikki. How you doing, Nikki? I see you're healing up after a rigorous training week. And I'm just happy to see that, man. I'm glad you're finally getting some rest after everything you had been through with your body and like your training partners and stuff. So how you feeling right now? And like, how's your week been so far on this Wednesday
Yeah,
evening?
I'm chilling, brother. Thank you. Yeah, it's good. Just training, like I said. Got a bruised up shin, so I'm just been inside today, icing it up. Gonna take off the weekend, watch the UFC fight in Seattle. I'm gonna watch two of my training partners fight on Saturday, so
Mm-hmm.
Saturday's gonna be a good one. I'll probably just stay in, order some Domino's or something good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, I'm excited. Got a decent card coming up. UFC Seattle. We got the fans with us. I have no clue what the arena looks like. I never got to see a Seattle Supersonics game, so I have no clue like the arena, what it looks like, the size of it. So I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's called the Climate Pledge Arena. Really intriguing name to say the least.
No
Like
way that's always been the name of it. I feel like that's a newer name. You know?
for sure, I think it was definitely changed over time. I don't have the history off the top of my head, but I definitely think like for example, like the Seattle Supersonics won the 1979 NBA championship. I'm pretty sure during that time, that era, it was definitely called something else. I mean, it could have been a whole different venue at that time, to be quite honest. But either way, right now it's home to the Seattle Kraken of the National Hockey League. For those of you who do watch hockey, I've yet to watch a Kraken game. Of course, I'd love to. Unfortunately, like there's no more Atlanta Thrashers. We lost our hockey team back in like 2011 when they became the Winnipeg Jets. So I haven't been watching hockey much lately. I know that foreign nations, like those games are going on right now. I've seen that all over ESPN. There were some crazy fights
I've
during
seen
that.
that.
Yeah, like, that was pretty insane to watch with it. Especially like the Canada versus USA. But yeah, I know you said that you had a good week so far. Like you just been relaxing. Outside of that, like nothing too crazy. Just ready, like you just waiting for the fights on Saturday, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's it, dude. That's it. Just like in the mindset of fights, dude. Like we're in the training camp. I remember last night my coach was giving a speech to the class, but it was mainly to the two guys fighting, and like I
Mhm,
had the butterflies. I was getting nervous, like thinking I gotta fight on Saturday.
mhm,
So it's just like, yeah, I've been in that mode, just trying to help out whoever I can, and it's a crazy feeling. Like in my head, I was like, whenever I'm ready to fight, I'm ready to go. Until that conversation, it's like it changes. It gets, it's a fight. You get 15 minutes to unleash all the crazy that you weren't allowed to. It's
mhm.
controlled, but it's like you're allowed to just unleash everything that you've been
Right.
training at 100% that you probably haven't gotten to. You're trying to, this person's trying to take what you want. Like Saturday, Song Yudong's trying to take everything Cejudo ever built from him. Brandon Allen's trying to take everything that Fluffy built. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Um, I'm super excited.
Yeah, man. Even as you say that, like Brendan Allen he just had a baby boy. He has like 3 kids, so he definitely has to win this fight to beat the family. Like as we've always said on this channel, like showing up with half a paycheck, that's
Hmm.
crazy. You never had a point in your life where you're working a job and and like your supervisor just feel like just not giving you like they just give you half your check on one random Friday, and it can be when your rent's due, and now you can't pay your bills. So it's a very devastating devastating effect it can have on a family. But of course, if you win a fight, plus getting a bonus. So if you're getting show win plus a bonus, like like if you're like Justin Gaethje, you're getting like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You can really rake in off the violence and stuff. So, speaking of the violence, of course, y'all aren't here to see us yammer that that much, but always love to have like these little discussions before getting into the card. Speaking of getting into the card, how do you feel about the card on paper? I like the poster. I do like how it's going with the theme of Seattle, Washington. I've never been to Seattle, unfortunately. I've always wanted to go, but I know it rains a lot. That's pretty notorious thing known about the city of Seattle, that it does rain. Um, so, how do you feel about the card? And have you ever been to Seattle, or do you have any family from Seattle or anything like that?
I've never been to Seattle, but I definitely could see myself living there. I love the rain, dude. I would let it rain every day and I'd be happy. Some people get depressed by the rain. The rain is peaceful for me. But talking about the card, let's just dive into this real quick because we have a lot of canceled and replaced fights.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd like the card. Don't get me wrong. I was more hyped about it, and I still like it. But it's really sad. We have a lot of fighters that were on. We were supposed to have Dominic Cruz's retirement fight, which led to his retirement due to an injury.
Right.
Curtis Blades, they got pushed 2 cards back. Steve Garcia and Edison Barboza. That was supposed to be a banger fight. Just having Steve Garcia on the card would have been really cool. People really want to see a finish from him. Fortunately, he's not on there. Then the ladies. That's a pretty good fight right there. Also off. So it sucks seeing the injuries. I heard some stuff about Ruzi Boa, but I mean it's still there. Maybe it was just something on Twitter stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I still like the card. I think the main card is really good. Um, got Gene Lord Silva. We got Rob Font. Nice to see him back. We got the rematch. That's like what 7 years in the making between Brandon Allen and Fluffy. Um, Menefield. First thing you said to me when you came in here, it's nice we got Menefield back on the card. Got 2 heavy hitters in Kudabella and Aslan. So yeah, and then we got a good main event. I'm a big Cejudo fan. Um, People find him corny. People think he's washed. I don't. I think he's corny, but I don't think he's washed. Uh, just older, He had ring rust in his last 2 fights. But yeah, you want to break it down? Want to get into it?
Yeah, for sure, man. Most definitely. But before I even break down the first fight, I do want to echo what you said as well. I do like the card. Literally every matchup that you did name, especially with Henry. I think with him headlining the card, like it's rare you see like obviously the bantamweight title fight has headline pay-per-views before. But they're letting like an older Henry Cejudo headline like a whole fight night. Like this arena is gonna be filled with people really primarily there to see Henry Cejudo. Of course, they're there to see the whole card, but the main event is obviously meant to bring the show home at the end of every single event, and it's obviously a really substantial fight to every single card. So the fact they're letting Henry really close out the show like that, of course, with his dance partner in Song Yadong, I really love that they're giving Henry this respect. And I guess I kind of wanted to ask this question to you eventually. So I guess I'll go ahead and get it out the way at the top of the card. Obviously, we know that Henry Cejudo is the 4th fighter to ever be simultaneous 2-division champion when he held the flyweight title and the bantamweight title after claiming it at UFC 238. That was when he defeated Marlon Moraes. So I was just curious, like, do you consider because of course, before we pick against him or pick with him, do you consider Henry Cejudo to be like an all-time great? And do you think he'd be in the top 5 of the GOAT discussion, like John Jones, GSP, Demetrius Johnson, Habib Nurmagomedov, like all these dudes? Like, do you think he has a really because some people disrespect Cejudo, but some people also do think that they do give him that praise. So I guess I just wanted your opinion. Where do you personally rank Henry, and how do you feel about his legacy and him as a fighter?
Yeah, I think he's a Hall of Famer, right? There's no doubt about that.
For
I think
sure.
he's one of the greats of the sport. His resume speaks for itself. If you split his career into 2 halves, you have before his retirement and after. He came back and fought 2 champions, but if we're just gonna put that to the side, Also, two probably the greatest bantamweight champions ever, if we're going to be honest, Aljo and Merab. You can't really debate that anymore. But if we're just going to put that aside, he retired in his prime,
Mm-hmm.
peak of his prime. Before that, he only has two losses, one to Demetrius Johnson and one to Ben Benitez, which he got put out. Besides that, he has phenomenal wins. Those two losses were his only losses.
Yep.
He was a two-weight champion. He was going for that third belt. If he didn't retire, there was a good chance he could have been a three-division champion. I think he's more of a what-if story than top five. I can't put him in the top five. I feel like there's a good amount of people, not a lot, but there's a handful of people I could put above him, all time wise. Uh, but
It's,
yeah, I think he's up there. You could argue, maybe you could argue for him top 10. Top five is high for me. I couldn't do that personally, but that's not a knock. Like, oh, you're not top five of all time. Like it don't really matter. It's just extra. He's an Olympic champion, UFC champion. He's accomplished all his goals. He left the UFC also to pursue a career in like in YouTube, right? Isn't that the reason he retired? He wants to make more money off of YouTube and stuff. And
yeah,
he did
he's,
that. He built his brand. He has a great brand right now. He's
mhm.
entertaining. So did he fail? He might have pushed his UFC career to the side, but I don't think he failed.
No,
So
not at
how
all.
about you?
Nah, I agree with everything you just said. You feel me? Like for me personally, it's really just with Cejudo. Like, man, like a simultaneous two division champion cannot be undermined. I think that's a pretty substantial achievement. Like, and like even like the word substantial is like a pretty big understatement. Like, so many fighters will come through the UFC and never even fight for a title. He won it. He obviously won the flyweight, and like that's another thing. Like, it's his resume too. Like, he has wins over Demetrius Johnson, T.J. Dillashaw, Dominic Cruz. Like, he has wins. So of course, Dominic Cruz. Obviously, it was during the pandemic, and Dominic was coming off the couch. I'm just saying more so like on paper. In the future, when we look back on it, of course, people can do what I just did right now and say what I just said about Cruz coming off the couch. But even then, it's just the names on the resume. When you say it out loud, it's pretty crazy, especially with TJ coming down a weight division off PEDs and stuff like that. So you can say, of course, he cut a lot of weight, but he could have been boosted too off the EPO. You're like, you never know. And Henry finished him in like 32 seconds. And then obviously the win over Demetrius Johnson. That was a split decision at UFC 227. But it was still a really, really good win, obviously, over one of the greatest fighters, literally someone who's in the top five without question, Demetrius Johnson. So I just think his resume is pretty substantial when you really say it out loud. And it's just like, man, having two belts on his shoulders, like, and also he defended both belts too. Like, he defended both titles, and like he really got out clean. If he would have just never because I mean, at UFC 249, like I'm really trying. At that point, he probably would have fought Piotr Jan next or something like that. Piotr Jan fought for the title at UFC 251 on Fight Island when he fought Jose Aldo. I'm pretty sure that was on that card. So we just knew like Henry probably would have fought Jan next, and we would have seen how that went. You feel me? A prime.
Maybe he would have pushed to 45.
Oh, for sure. I think that probably would have been the conversation, especially knowing him not wanting to cut the weight anymore. I definitely I definitely believe he would have tried to fight for the belt for sure. And also, he was scheduled to fight Jose Aldo too at one point in Brazil until the pandemic took place. But of course, just definitely wanted to analyze Henry Cejudo's legacy. We're gonna talk about him in the main event, of course, but that definitely just wanted to just analyze one of the all-time greats. Obviously he's closer to the end of his career at the age of, I think Henry's like 38 right now. So
38.
It's getting to a point where obviously any fight could be his last. And just really wanted to appreciate him while he's here as one of the all-time greats of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Definitely one of the best little guys to ever put the black and white gloves on. So yeah, we can get into the card most definitely. Starting out with the first fight of the night. You can make the first pick on this one. Modestas Bukauskas and Rafael Cicada.
Yeah. So we saw Raphael fight kind of recently, I remember. He had a lot of fights just wherever, and then he came into the UFC. He had like those demo fights or whatever, I think, and it wasn't really a lot of tape to go off of. He was just throwing people around, being just a bully. He kind of is that though. That's his fight style. He's just like a foot on the gas, and he just likes to be chaotic in the ring. Bukauskas is a little different. I think he's the better striker in this fight.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not chaotic at all. I mean, he's like the complete opposite of chaos, whatever you would call that. Like he's like it's not even patient. Patience not even the word. He just doesn't do enough. Which could mean he's not doing the right thing at times. So this fight was a little hard for me to pick. I didn't know. I was gonna pick Raphael based off maybe he could get it done. I'm gonna feel safer in this fight. I'm gonna go with Bukauskas to win this one by decision. I think maybe Raphael might just come out in the first round and wreak havoc, and then later on Bukauskas could just slow down, find his pace, and just win out 2 rounds, get a decision. I think he's the better striker in this fight, Bukauskas. And this fight should just be on the feet.
Nah, yeah, me too. We're starting off the night agreeing. I was gonna go with the former Cage Warriors champion. I'm just really happy to see him fight again after coming off that Khalil Roundtree injury. It was a very, very, very devastating kick that Khalil landed to his knee, and watching that live was just like absolutely horrendous. But I'm really happy to see him really bounce back. Especially like making his UFC debut in his last fight. I thought he looked really good. And I'm trying to remember if his last fight was his debut back. Nah, that's when he got knocked out by Petrino. I was thinking about the Zach Palga fight after the Tyson Pedro fight, because I think you can't really take too much away from the Pedro fight. The Zach Palga fight, I thought he looked pretty good in. And of course, we did see him lose to Vitor Petrino. You can feel however you want to feel about that now. But of course, Petrino taking his losses, and now we know Petrino is going up to heavyweight. So I'm pretty interested to see how that's gonna go, coming off the back of two losses, and his last one being a knockout loss. He was supposed to fight Jonathan Denise on March 8th at 3:13, but that got canceled, unfortunately. But of course, keeping it with Modestas, I think he's pretty good, man. Like he's in the prime of his career right now at 31, at least creeping up in there in the light heavyweight division. We know these guys can fight till 30, 35, 36, still be in their prime. And I think he's looking better, better and better every single fight. Outside of the Petrino one, I honestly think coming back into the UFC, he's really shown his improvements. And I think he'll at least just win the striking battles here. I didn't really like what I saw from Rafael Cicada like that. He's 11-1, but a lot of his competition on the regional scene, he beat a 2-3 guy, 0-0, 9-7, 0-1, 1-1. So a lot of those wins, you can't really take too much away from those. So I do think that Bukauskas will come out here and get a victory. So I was going to go with the Baltic Gladiator to start the card off, right?
Let me cut you off real quick, sorry. But I just seen a tweet per UFC that Dana White will be announcing some breaking news tonight on his Instagram. So I just turned on his notifications. I don't think the breaking news is going to be Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates, personally. That's cool, but I don't think that's breaking news. That might be 2 fights announced on UFC 314. So maybe we're going to get the 314 main event tonight.
Yeah.
Maybe we get some Volkanovski news. I don't know, but we'll see. Maybe we could break it live on the channel tonight as it happens. That'd be awesome.
He put on his, because Volkanovski put on his YouTube channel his fight camp videos and stuff like that.
Thailand.
Yeah, he just uploaded one. So that obviously could have been a little gem about what's to come. They're always signing contracts and shaking hands behind the scenes. So they always like to get these cards stacked months in advance, especially particular cards like the Miami ones. Hopefully,
that one's right around the corner.
Exactly, March. It's April. So and it's cool how they've made it like a yearly destination like that. Hopefully they do the same with Los Angeles. I know Dana would love to be in LA every year, with the UFC being Hollywood, with all those celebrities every single year on what a stacked card. Really, because he likes showing what the epitome of what the Ultimate Fighting Championship is when he takes his promotion to big market cities like that, like New York, like LA. Hopefully, like, he'll come back to Atlanta soon. We know they love Miami, obviously, and we'll see what they get tonight. Hopefully, I mean, like, we'll see if it's John versus Aspinall. I think that's not gonna happen till like an international fight week, if I could say. I think that John likes to take time off, especially like preparing for Tom Aspinall. I could be wrong. Hopefully, it is the fight tonight. We know, like, Dana would pay him a lot of money that night because that they're definitely going to make it back in Miami for certain. But we'll see how it goes. Either way, we know how Dana can be. I just do hope that it is a main event as of right now.
Or maybe some trading cards, who knows? Maybe it's breaking news that he's doing a giveaway or some bullshit.
Nah, I mean, either way, we know that we still don't have a UFC 315 main event. Obviously, we're getting some fights for it, that Montreal pay-per-view. But hopefully, we get our main events pretty soon. That way we can start preparing and analyzing them, thinking how the fights are going to go. And we know that right now the women's bantamweight queen, Juliana Pena, hasn't been scheduled to fight yet. The women's flyweight queen, Valentina Shevchenko, hasn't been scheduled to fight yet. So got some belts that definitely need to be defended. And we'll see what direction White decides to go, knowing the venues he's going to be at. We know he'll want certain title fights on certain pay-per-views. So I think Montreal will definitely see one of those ladies defend a belt, maybe Juliana or Valentina. I definitely do believe that for certain. But I can't give you a guess with that. Like, maybe Pantoja comes out of nowhere and maybe he could defend in Montreal, because it'd be a good title fight if he fought Kai Kara-France. That's a good main event. So either way, of course, we'll see how it goes. But moving on to the next fight, though. Yeah,
Ruzi Boev.
Ooh, yeah, my bad. Yeah, my thing was loading. Yeah. So, how do you feel about this fight going into it? Like, Ruzi Boev, he's going back up to middleweight after going to 170. Obviously, we saw him lose to Joaquin Buckley, Newman, so who's on a tear right now. So we can't really hold that against him like that. He has a lot of experience, obviously, with his record, 34 wins and 9 losses. And either way, I do think that he is a pretty good fighter, even coming off his last fight. I think the weight cut, just putting on the extra pounds, is going to obviously pay dividends for him, having his massive frame at 6'5". He kind of has a small reach for a guy that big with 76 inches. You could definitely say that. But I think he's a pretty good fighter, though. Like, you can say fairly well-rounded. Most of his wins are by sub. He does prefer to grapple. 20 wins by way of submission out of 34 wins. And he has 12 wins by way of KO. So the person he's fighting, pretty sure this guy trains with Jared Cannonier. Yep, MMA Lab, most definitely, out of Glendale, Arizona. We just saw his teammate pick up a big win, so we know that gym, just like you, Nikki, they got some pretty good momentum right now. Obviously, they got some good positive vibes, and that's obviously going to pay, do some good things for Eric. But me personally, I think that the size might be an issue for him. He fought at light heavyweight on the regional scene, even as a 6-foot guy. So it's pretty funny how he's gonna cut more weight to fight an even bigger guy, And I just think that alone shows you the upgrade of competition when you enter the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And that alone, I do think that Nursultan has beaten the better guys. Eric has a win over Jerome Hatch in his last fight. Jerome is 28-20, and I do think that Nursultan, even losing to Joaquin Buckley, he's going to learn a lot from that loss. And I think you can honestly say Joaquin is better than any fighter that Eric has faced in his entire career. So I do think that Nursultan will learn from this last fight and look better in this one. He looked good before he fought Joaquin, and I think again being back in what in my opinion is his natural weight class, I think he'll look even better in this fight. Just look new and improved. Especially with someone who hasn't even faced like nowhere near the level of competition that Nursultan has faced. So I was gonna go with Black to win this fight. If I could give you a method of victory, I'll go with the second round submission for Nursultan Ruziboev.
I like it. I'm gonna keep it simple. Yeah, I'm going Ruziboev too. The experience is one thing itself, but that height, it's gonna be hard for most fighters to deal with. I mean, we saw Jacqueline Buckley do it, but that doesn't mean everyone's just gonna be able to do it. I mean, that's a dude that's like close to title contention, so it's
Super
different.
athletic.
Yeah, for sure. So it's gonna be hard for most people to deal with that. Eric, does he have a UFC fight before? That was my thing. I really didn't like. For me, no, he hasn't. Like for
Not his
me, it
debut.
wasn't a matter of like I gotta research this guy. I'm confident in Ruziboev. I mean, if this dude Eric could come in here and beat Ruziboev, like I mean, shit, let's put him to the test at that point. Maybe he's the truth. Let's skyrocket him up. So I'm gonna take Ruziboev. If I had to put money on one just like that, I've
Mm-hmm.
seen what Ruziboev could do in the cage and all that experience. It's like crazy. Saw what King Green was saying on the Jackson podcast.
Jackson
Like
podcast.
you can't disrespect the dude who stepped in that cage and walked that walk, almost 50 times, dude. 34, 9-2. I mean, we're close to 50. So
And he's
yeah,
so young too to have that many fights. Like he's
he
not
must
like
have took a
Long
amateur and
Zhu.
just went right to pro at a young age. Maybe pro at like 18, 19, fighting 3-4 times a year,
Mm,
more. Getting knockouts and getting in the cage in another 2 weeks.
right. Because like that's the funny part too. Like if you look at John Jones, like early portion of his career, if you go back to like 2008, the fights are like a month apart. You just like they were just doing that back then. It wasn't like that, like And then obviously like the athletic commissions give these guys the suspensions, like like the 6 months, 3 months, depending on how much damage they took in the fight. That's when you really see them. Like, of course, after 6 months, they can come back, but some dudes do decide to. Like Justin Gaethje, he said he only likes to fight like twice a year. Like he does
Yeah.
not like to put his body through that, and he likes like 10-week training camps. He loves to he likes to prepare. And I fully feel him on that after going to college and stuff like that. Preparing for final exams or anything in your life, really, whether it's job interview, a date, like anything like that. So people really like to to prepare. And obviously, when it comes to preparation, like that can help you trump over anything. To be quite honest, like if you're really given ample enough time to prepare, to game plan. And that's why Gaethje's one of my favorite fighters. Of course, like I just said, he's uploading his camp film too on his YouTube channel. He's not fighting for gold this time around, of course, but he is in a big co-main event versus Dan Hooker, and it's 5 rounds. So even though it's not a title fight, it feels like 2 title fights on the card, knowing that we got 2 5-round fights that obviously can change the landscape of both divisions, most definitely. But keeping with this card, of course, moving on to the welterweight division. Yeah, man, I'm gonna keep it kind of simple on this one too. I want to show some love to Austin Vanderford. It's cool to see him finally in the UFC. I've watched him in Bellator for a real long time. The husband of Paige Van Zandt. I'm gonna give him the respect and call him Austin Vanderford. Some people like to call him Mr. Van. Yeah, I'm not even gonna say it on here because I don't like to disrespect him. Like that's his wife and stuff like that. Good fighter, in my opinion. Always been a good fighter. Lost to Gegard Mousasi in the first round. And like I just think it was a really big step up for him. He probably hadn't felt power like that in his life. You feel me? And we know how good of a striker that even like an older Gegard is. Like, of course, the first round is definitely gonna scare some people in terms of his chin. But I do think that Gegard, like he still has magic in his hands. and we'll see how he performs in the in the GFL. That Gegard, I think he's on Team London. Gegard Mousasi is on. Obviously, he's a European fighter, so it's cool to see that he is in Europe as one of the leaders of that roster. So I am intrigued to see how the I, I keep almost saying one of the nicknames for GFL. It's the Global Fight League. I am excited to see how it does go. We know that Chris Weidman is fighting Luke Rockhold. Uriah Faber is fighting Henan Barao. 45-year-old Uriah Faber, if I do add. It's pretty crazy to see him come back. It honestly kind of breaks my heart to see him really have to, because he's a successful business owner, has a gym. You feel me? But he's coming back, and either way, like, these guys feel like they can still go. You feel me? So, but like, either way, just want to give a shout out to Uriah. And like, obviously the GFL has turned some heads, and we'll see how it goes when they make their debut. I think it's supposed to be, they said, in April of 2025. So time's a ticking for the GFL. But yeah, I just mentioned Nagas Gegard's in there. But yeah, like I said, Austin, like, he's primarily a wrestler. He can get the fight to the ground, can get control time, is a pretty strong guy, has a thick frame at 170. Really more of a wrestler than a striker. Of course, he can throw punches. He's not a bad boxer. He does have 4 wins by KO, and 3 wins via sub, and 5 wins via decision. So primarily just trying to get the fight to the ground, get the control time. And I think that's what he'll do here, especially in his debut fighting in front of fans. I mean, like, most people would think that's the recipe to come out here and bang. I don't think he's going to do that. It's his first fight. He's 34 years old. So he's a pretty seasoned guy, even though he doesn't have that many fights at 12-2. He's pretty seasoned for, like, with his wrestling career, and his experience, like, throughout, like, big competitions in college, stuff like that. So I do think that he will have a good performance in this fight. And yeah, I think he'll win it by decision, to be quite honest. But who are you picking in this fight?
I don't have any tape, any info on this fight, so I'm gonna say follow Antoine on this one, guys. I can take the next fight though.
No, that's all good for sure. Nah, man, I appreciate you on that one, most definitely. Giving me the lob there, the alley oop. But yeah, like, Austin's good, man. I like him as a wrestler, like I said. Veritenikov, I think Nikolai is all right. You feel me? Like, he's 0-1 in the UFC. He lost to Danny Barlow by split decision. Barlow is really good. Undefeated welterweight. But I just think that with Nikolai's style, I think Austin will be able to get the fight to the ground. Like I said, obviously some people are kind of scared with Austin's chin, seeing how he did lose his 2 losses by way of knockout. The second one being Aaron Jeffrey. I didn't mention that. Shout out to Aaron Jeffrey. Guy's a good mustache and a good mullet as well. Most definitely. Only said that because Nikki was talking about growing a mullet. It was pretty funny. That, like, the coincidence and stuff. But yeah, either way, I think that Vanderford's going to come out here and win a decision. Really just wrestle him, get him to the ground, and really just try to really win his debut, really prioritize that, really get his UFC career off to a good start. Obviously, he's getting here pretty late. I mean, 34 isn't bad for the welterweight division. We see Gilbert Burns at 38, still going strong. At 35, he was still definitely in his prime. He was fighting Jack Della Maddalena, looking pretty good not too long ago. So I think at 34, especially he's been knocked out, yeah, but he hasn't taken that much damage in his career. Austin Vanderford. So I'm excited to see how he'll look in his debut. Obviously, we saw Michael Chandler do it a few years ago. These guys are now starting to come over. We know that Aaron Pico for the PFL, formerly Bellator fighter, Bellator prospect, really big guy when he first came out, 20 years old, all that. Aaron Pico. He's put out an interview with MMA Junkie this week, actually, talking about he's really calling for his release from Don Davis. And hopefully he'll get it soon. I would love to see him in the featherweight division of the UFC. I think he'd be a good division. He's still pretty young. And it'd be cool to add another wrestler in there that has good hands like Aaron Pico does. Especially seeing how he's matured from his losses, those 3 knockout losses when he was super young. So, Yeah, like either way, I do like these storylines. All these Bellator guys finally make a UFC appearance. It is pretty cool to me. And yeah, moving on to the next one. Another mullet guy in the UFC. Yeah, man, Ricky Simone. You can go ahead and give your first pick on this one, Nikki. Most definitely.
I think this one's a really good fight. So we have one of the Basharat brothers going against Ricky Simone. Um, I would say Ricky Simone's in maybe a little skid in his career right now. I think he had a higher trajectory earlier on in his career. Um, Maybe the difference now is that he fell in love with striking and fell away from that wrestling dominance that he had. He was kind of like Marab before Marab. I know Marab was still around at the time they even fought. But he had like that same style of fighting until he really developed a better striking. I think it took away from what he had, but it's just making him a better mixed martial artist for the future of his career. Um, he was just able to pressure fight everyone, just chain wrestling together, and every time it failed, he just went back to it and back to it. And now it's like if wrestling fails for him, he'll just stand with you. Um, Javid is a good fighter, but he just lets you back him up to the cage. He has great takedown defense, so I think this one will be a good clash of fighters. Um, I'm picking Ricky Simone to win this one by decision. I know Javid is more known for being the decision win fighter. That's just like his thing. I don't see him finishing Ricky Simone, and if it does go to a decision, I think Ricky's wrestling is just going to be too like. I do think he still has it in him to just wrestle for 3 rounds and just make it work. If Javid doesn't keep backing up against the cage, it's going to be a cage fight. I think Ricky can work him to the ground. I don't think he's just going to get shut out by Javid. Um, Personally, Javid does do good against wrestlers in his past, but he just doesn't do enough. He doesn't take the fight into his own hands, I don't feel. I think he's skilled, but he just has to do more in his fights. If
Mhm.
he's going to be a decision fighter, you have to do more. Like Marab does more. If he's going to be a decision fighter, he's going to win that decision. Like there's like you could debate, oh, the Umar fight was close. Marab did enough though. Like it was for sure he did enough in that fight. Um, Also, Javid doesn't punch a lot. He kicks, and kicking versus a wrestler isn't like the greatest strategy. They catch one of those, now you're on one leg. How good are you on one leg? So I'm gonna take Ricky Simone to win this one by a decision. Also,
Mhm.
while you get ready to give your thing, I just want to see the odds. That's plus 230 too, man. That's good odds.
Yeah, man. If you're feeling bold, definitely go for it. Roll the dice. See how they come up. You feel me? This is gonna be our first disagreement of the evening. Uh, Ricky Simone's been there for a really really long time. Has a lot of UFC experience. Obviously, we saw him take the O of the just retired Jack Shore. Was really really high on Jack Shore, the Welshman. Until he retired, man. I really love watching him fight. I wish him nothing but the best in his retirement. We know his father does own a gym, so pretty sure he'll just become a coach and just enjoy the rest of his days, just living out martial arts in the non-competition side. And I bet that's gonna be really relaxing for Jack Shore. So shout out to Jack Shore, most definitely a former opponent of Ricky Simone. And I think with Ricky, like how you mentioned, obviously with his skid, I just think he's losing his athleticism. One of the things that really was one of the biggest advantages of his game. One of his trademarks as Ricky. And like for me personally, I think the Snow Leopard will be able to stuff the takedowns. Really keep the fight at a distance when it comes to the striking on the feet. And I think he'll have a really good game plan coming from Extreme Couture. Obviously, we see everything coming out of that gym this week with Sean Strickland and Eric Nixick. Even then, before I hopped on here, I heard that Eric Nixick had deactivated like his Instagram because like they were like coming at his daughter and stuff like that. And like that's
After
crazy.
what he said about Sean
Sean
Strickland.
Strickland, yeah, bro. Like
That's stupid because
it's
if you're
crazy.
trying to support Sean that bad, Sean's the type of fighter that would want that kind of energy towards him anyway. They act like and like where the fuck is Sean Strickland gonna go if it's not at Extreme Couture? They act like other gyms are lining up waiting to coach Sean Strickland. Like everyone knows, and Sean Strickland knows himself is one of like the biggest piece of shits towards people. Like he might be a cool dude, but he's a piece of shit. I promise you, there aren't 10 gyms lining up inviting him in. I feel like there's more gyms rejecting him. So the fact that people are like trying to shit on the coach, saying like, oh, they should do that behind private doors. They definitely did. They walked out of the arena together. What do you think they fucking talked about after the fight? I don't get people like how they're trying to turn it on the coach for saying that. How many days after the interview, after the fight was that interview? Then you think that they didn't talk about it? You don't think he told Sean that he didn't give him his all? That's probably the first thing he told him, that during the fight that he didn't give it his all. So it was just annoying. I don't get why. And then they want to go after his daughter. It's just so corny.
Mm-hmm.
Like leave family out of it. It's so stupid. People are just internet warriors. But yeah, like people are acting like Sean's gonna like leave and go to another gym. If he wants to coach champions, he has the right to say that as the coach. And Sean is a former champion, so he should know that it should be nothing less from that. If Sean wants to be a money fighter, then go be a money fighter. But he was fighting for a belt. He wanted to be a champion. So you got
Mm-hmm.
to respect the coach. The coach builds the fighters.
Right.
Sean didn't build his career on his own. He had a team. So,
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just checked Eric's Twitter. Apparently he reactivated it now. And like yeah, like and apparently like yeah, like they said like the Strickland fans were like coming like his daughter and stuff like that. And I mean, yeah, like we know that Sean has just a really big fan base now, especially after winning the belt, you feel me? And with the Eric situation, I just think that shouldn't have said it behind closed doors. Like I feel him on that. But the fight happened out in public for the world to see, and everyone really had like the same opinion, you know. Like, and he saw, like they saw what he was telling him in the corner too, you know. And I know that Daniel Cormier was a big part of like the whole thing with with him not liking what Eric Nix said, but like I think DC took it out of context. Like I think like when Eric said that, he's talking more so about like the mindset of being a champion, like that, the actual one, like the effort. Of course, like Sean has the dedication to be a champion. He became a champion off his dedication. I think it was more so about it's like the effort and I guess like yeah, like the mindset, like trying to power through with the mental fortitude and like in like through all the adversity and like in every situation. And I just think he was really frustrated, especially losing to a guy they gave because I know Eric was probably sitting there game planning for this guy like so much. As soon as they got the call again that they were really gonna fight him again, like oh yeah, like and he just didn't get to really put forth the effort that he thought he should have, and it's unfortunate. But of course, sticking with Extreme Couture, it's a great gym, and that's why I really do think Javid Basharat can win this fight. I've always liked Farid more, his younger brother Farid Basharat. But I just think that Javid is going to come out and learn from his last loss, his first loss, his only loss, and really just improve from that. And it just looked better, honestly. So I'm really excited to see the new version of the Snow Leopard. I think he digested so much film after losing his first fight and just looking where he went wrong, so to not replicate that same result in his next fight. Can't take back-to-back L's. So I'm really excited to see like how Javid improves from his first loss, and yeah, I'm taking Javid Basharat to win the fight via decision. I think he'll stuff the takedowns and win the fight on the feet. Just win the fight anywhere the fight goes. Be prepared to scramble. He might get tired if Ricky's on. He's definitely gonna gas him out, get him up against the cage, keep the pressure on, try to chain wrestle. But I just think he's like he'll be ready for that and like he'll adjust. Like you want to let him hold him against the cage and he'll be better with his footwork round by round and. We'll see how he deals with the pressure in the first round. That's gonna tell it all when it's a fresh Ricky Simone. And like we'll see how he deals with that kind of pressure. But yeah. Any last words on the fight? Are you good?
As for me, I think it'll be a good decision.
A good decision. I feel you for sure. Yeah, going to the next one. I won't spend too much on this one either because I'm actually really, really high on Mensur Abdul Malik. Big prospect. This guy is coming out of Contender Series. He was like a minus like 1,000 favorite on Contender Series when he first came in. He's one of those dudes. Apparently, we're gonna see how this goes. I was like seeing one of these kind of I don't want to say showcase fights, but just like like the storyline fight and a big prospect. I really love seeing that. Of course, we just saw Renan Nakamura lose his O. We just saw Peyton Talbot lose his O against Leone Barcelos. And that was a massive storyline fight. A person who had captivated the masses like Peyton Talbot had. He was everywhere on YouTube, social media. He was hanging out with Frank Ocean. He was everywhere. And yeah, but I think for Mansur Abdul-Malik, I think he can make a big splash in this middleweight division. Nick Klein is really, really good. Obviously, we saw him on Contender Series. That was a crazy guillotine. He synced up. It was like in 39 seconds or something like that. It was like, you could tell like, he had been training that move like for years to be able like to sync that in. The way that he did, it was pretty substantial. It was like, yeah, over Geraldo Souza in 37 seconds. It was pretty miraculous to see him get that. And according to Tapology, he's the number 6 ranked middleweight fighting out of the Midwest. So we'll see how this goes with him making his debut. I think Mansur's going to be stronger. I think he'll get the fight to the ground. Ground and pound. We'll see how Nick deals with the physicality, but I think that's where Mansur wins the fight. I think he'll be stronger, and it's better in the grappling. It'll be hard knowing like the submission attempts that Nick does have at his disposal. Like I said, that guillotine was extremely fast. It was just how he synced it up. It was super duper quick, like in a movie or something like that. Really, really fast twitch muscle fibers. It was a rear naked choke. I'm sorry. It was a rear naked choke. That's what it was. He didn't even have the hooks in, I'm pretty sure. It was a crazy rear naked choke. But I'm going to go with Mansur Abdul-Malik to win by TKO in the first round via ground and pound. How you feeling?
I'm 100% on the same boat as you. I got Mansur Abdul-Malik winning by a first round knockout. He's just a powerful hitter, dude. Like everything you said is right. He brings the power, and Klein is good. He's a good wrestler. You got to pick one when it's a wrestler versus a striker. I say the fight doesn't get to the ground. I say Mansur will knock him out first round, you know? Yeah, and Mansur had good takedown defense in the Dana White Contender Series. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if he could stuff the takedowns. I think if there are takedowns, he'll stuff them and just put him out in the first.
Yeah, like, I mean, because we saw how he looked against Dusko Todorovic. He replicated, honestly, the same thing with the ferocious same ground and pound. And we saw him in submission danger, too, when he, like, he was surviving the heel hook attempts. And he really showed his maturity, even for a green fighter, as Mansur Abdul-Malik is. So I think he'll learn really fast in the UFC. He is a UFC caliber fighter, even at his green state in his career. So I think that the UFC, like, they're really hype about, like, that's what I'm really excited about, like, with watching this sport. You feel me? Like, obviously with the NBA, we have prospects coming through the NBA draft every summer, and they just improve every year. They get older, and we see them really becoming grown men from teenagers. So we'll see with Mansur. Could you click on him, please? I'm pretty sure he's 26 years old, if I can remember correct. 27. So he's young. You feel me? Especially for the middleweight. I do think that, especially having his momentum, being undefeated, and really showing his physicality and everything that he's showing right now, he can really be like a specimen in this division. He just has to manage his gas tank. And I only mention the NBA stuff because, I'm intrigued to see how, like, if I could fast forward to 2032. I wonder where he would be in, like, the middleweight rankings. Would he be the champion? Like, would he be, like, like, where would he be?
Like on UFC, when you're playing UFC and you go down the line, all of a sudden you got someone like him as the champion or something, you know? Mm-hmm. You just fast track a few years and it's the most random fight. It's like Brandon Allen's the middleweight champion with 8 title defenses. Like, what the fuck did I miss? You know?
For real. Like, exactly. And, like, that's what I'm always curious about. Like where do these people like where would they actually be? And that's why you have to, like, really show love to the guys like Dustin Holloway, like Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, who have been here like 10 years like that. Like Yair Rodriguez has been here since 2012. You feel me? So to be here this long on the roster like that is to be calling yourself a UFC fighter. When we see some of these dudes go 0-3 and they're gone, so really gotta respect the guys that have been here for a long time, and I think Mansur's gonna be here for a long time, and I really am excited to see how he'll do in the middleweight division. We know the history of the middleweight hasn't really had the strongest wrestlers and grapplers, so hopefully he can use that to his advantage. And I think eventually he will go up to 205. Most definitely. Given his frame, I do think he will go up to 205 pounds at one point. But of course, moving on to the next one. You can give the first pick in this fight, Nikki.
All right, we got Andre Touchy-Feely versus Costa. I'm just gonna say Costa. I'm taking Andre Feely to win this one by decision. He's a good veteran. They have close experience in just total professional fights. Andre Feely's younger than I thought. I thought he was pushing 40. He's actually not. I didn't know. I think he's like 36. All right. Let me just make sure real quick. 34, dude, even younger than I thought. I was still wrong. He's 34 years old. For some reason, I thought he was older than he is. I really thought he was pushing 40. Dude, I swear, I don't know if it was because he fought Cub Swanson, and Cub Swanson's kind of, how old was Cub?
He's like 42.
He's okay because he's fought Cub, and I thought they were both the same age going into that fight. I don't ask me why. Yeah, I mean he's Andre Feely's a very good mixed martial artist. His chin has been tested a little bit at this point in his career, so he does take a little bit more damage. And he's a good striker, but he's also dangerous on the ground. And I think that's where he could get this fight. I think he could get Costa down to the ground. I think his UFC experience is what's going to be the deciding factor in this. I think Costa has a lot of professional fights, but it's not against UFC talent that Andre Feely has seen. I think Andre is going to, exchange in this fight. They'll be good on the feet together. But I think he'll be able to take him down, control him a little bit, try and get a submission. Maybe he gets it, maybe he doesn't. I'm going to take Andre Feely to win this one by a decision, though.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm right there with you. We're gonna agree on this one too. I'm pretty sure Feely has ties to Washington State, so I know he predominantly trains in Sacramento, Team Alpha Male. So shout out to Feely, another guy who's been on the roster for about 10 years plus. Andre Touchy Feely, even if he's unranked and all of that, obviously and yeah, like if you're an up and down fighter, because he's had up and down results in his last few fights, they do like you a lot. Like the brass likes you a lot. That means you're a fun fighter. Like when people see you in the street and you say you're a UFC fighter, they want to it's like when you get a job at like a new place and they want you to have your hair cut all the time, really be representable for them. They want the UFC fighters to have a certain look. Like they want, if you're it's hard to explain, not like all tatted up and stuff in particular, just a certain look to you. Especially when you step into the cage and you fight and stuff like that. It's like for prime example, they want the UFC heavyweights to be like real specimens. Like they're not gonna be like NBA centers and stuff like that. They'll never be like that, like 7 foot guys and all 7 foot. I mean, all like the whole fucking division is like 6'10" and they're all heavy. Like I don't think that's ever gonna happen in the UFC. But though they're still big though. It's like Walter Walker's like 6'6". Taliesin Teixeira's like 6'7". So all these guys, they want UFC heavyweights to look like that. That's why they signed them so green in their career too. Like Taliesin he has 7 fights and he's already in. They want to sign these guys, really have these specimens early. Even if you remember, Francis Ngannou was a guy who they signed pretty early in his career as well. So and that's the thing, they're always doing that, you feel me? But yeah, man, Feely is a guy who's been here for a really, really long time, and I think he'll continue to be here for the next few years. He's 34. I think he'll call it probably around 36, 37. It's hard in those slower weight classes when you got to continue to cut that weight, and the harder he goes in, the more he goes up in weight, the harder these guys are gonna hit. So we'll see how he goes in the latter years of Feely's career. But I do think he will win this fight, though, and give Seattle a really good fight, most definitely.
Bet. Moving on to the upper half of the card.
Absolutely got our last prelim. Yeah, man, this one isn't going to take long, the fight itself, so I won't take long either. Got the battle for 3-letter name supremacy in this one. Got Ibo Aslan versus Iwan Kutelaba. I guess I won't keep the people waiting with the drum roll. I was going to go with Ibo Aslan in this one. I just think he's the more consistent fighter. I trust him in the striking more. I like his IQ more. more athletic. I've just like what I've seen from him better overall. I think he's a better fighter. I think he'll continue to get better. I do think he'll put Turkish MMA on the map, honestly. I think he's young. For this division, he's really, really young. You feel me? He's about 28 years old right now. So he'll only continue to get better. Some people don't like his brawling style with his hooks and stuff like that. But I think he'll continue to get better. And he's producing good knockouts with his style. And the UFC like him a lot. Like his look, his I got to sound like his fighting style. He's real marketable dude, and like they need more fighters from that region of the world from Turkey. So, I was gonna go with Ebo Aslan, and like I said, this fight's not lasting long. I was gonna go with Ebo by a first round KO. Ebo Aslan.
I like it. Again, we're agreeing. You said it perfectly. I mean, they're both. It's a flip of a coin with this fight. Whoever you like more. I think Kudabella has some IQ issues that could just definitely interfere with winning this fight. Like if he was there and he mixed martial arts and he tried to use his wrestling and stuff, I think he definitely could win this fight. I'm just gonna take Ebo Aslan. I mean, he just looks good. He's hot right now. He's only really been hot, you know what I mean? So he's riding that streak. I got to go with him. They both have great knockout power, so you really could pick whoever you want. They both have a lot of knockouts, but yeah, I'm gonna take Ebo in this one for the 3-letter dispute.
I'm dead. Moving on to the first fight of our main card on Saturday night. What time this card started? Is this a 4 p.m., 7 p.m.?
6.
It's a 6. So, okay, bet it's a 6 p.m., 9 p.m. Okay, bet. So we'll be clocking this main card fight in right here at about 9 p.m. at night if y'all live on the East Coast, about 6 p.m. on the West Coast, where this fight will be taking place. I don't really have the time zone for Seattle off the top of my head, but I mean, either way, I know for me when this fight starts, it's going to be about 9 o'clock. So
it should be 3 hours earlier, no?
3 hours.
3 hours earlier than the East Coast, right?
I think.
Anyways, we just.
Oh no, I mean.
Yeah, I was just assuming, right?
Oh no, of course not. I mean, I was curious. But yeah, either way, we have Alonzo Minifield making a return on this card. It's about 3 hour difference. You're right. Yep, so 3 hour difference. Like I thought. Yep. So
I figure it's California's right there. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. It'll be 6 p.m. when this fight starts for those in the building at the Climate Pledge Arena. So, it's a good one. It's a strong one. It's a fast one. I'm pretty intrigued to see how this is gonna go. We got Julius Walker, the Juice Box, making his debut. He's obviously bound to feel those UFC jitters, especially facing a veteran who's had his fair share of ups and downs, winning and losing, like Alonzo Minifield. Obviously we know Minifield has great power. He's a great wrestler too, really athletic. At 37 years old, that's the biggest question mark for him right now, coming off the back of 2 losses. He got knocked out by Asmat Mursakanov, but you can't take too much away from that, in my opinion. Mursakanov is a great fighter. He's supposed to get that step up against the kid Krylov, but unfortunately he had to pull out of that matchup. And I think just that alone, Alonzo Minifield, throughout his wins and his losses, has faced way better competition than Julius Walker has. I haven't got to watch much film on Julius Walker, I will be honest. So I will just refer to his career and what he's produced thus far. So apparently, he's the number 6th ranked light heavyweight fighting out of North America. He is from Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut. You feel me? And he's young coming into this fight. He is 25 years old in the light heavyweight division. He's 6'4" with an 81-inch reach. So this guy's kind of a specimen himself. He's a pretty big dude, not gonna lie. Like I mentioned, for his career, he has 4 wins by way of KO, 2 by way of sub. So he has 100% finishing rate. So that is pretty fun. I am excited to watch this fight now, most definitely. He won a regional scene title when he choked out Niall Bartling, who was also 6-1. And he defended that belt against Bevan Lewis, former UFC veteran. a lot of people were high on Bevon Lewis at one point. And I think for this one, you either bet on potential or you bet on experience. You feel me? This is a pretty intriguing fight. I'm not gonna lie, especially after breaking it down. Because again, I did not get to watch much film on Juice. So a part of me wants to go with Minifield just based on who he's fought, who he's beaten. But like, I mean, this man has like a 5-inch reach advantage over this, and he's 4 inches taller. It's a close fight on paper. Walker's coming in a plus 140 underdog for you bettors out there with Alonso minus 170 favorite. When was that KO loss? It was 6 months ago. So he's threading the needle on his UFC suspension. I mean, this is gonna be a close fight. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna be a big night for him, and I think he's gonna pull it off, man. I'm gonna go with Julius Walker, man. I'm gonna go with Julius Walker, man.
I like it. I like it. He claimed to be the best basketball player in the UFC today at Media Day.
Like we'll see how it goes. Obviously, Alonso is a really, really good fighter. I just think his athleticism is kind of taking a dip in this fight. In his last few fights, and I think he has taken a fair amount of damage. I think with Walker, like, he'll be able to use his reach advantage. Hopefully, keep a good jab. He's taking this on short notice, so that is a red flag. But it's not like he's taking it up. It's not like he's a middleweight taking it up at 205, trying to get into UFC. Nah, this is his division. He was already scheduled to fight Mark Courier on this date, and he was going to fight him on March 1st. That fight got rescheduled, so he was indeed already in a fight camp when that fight got canceled. So he's in great shape for this fight. That's why they called him. He's undefeated with a 100% finishing rate. He has all the momentum in the world right now to make a big debut in the UFC. I love storylines, you feel me? So I'm gonna go with Julius Walker, man. Let's see how it goes. Like, this is my only sketchy pick of the whole night, in my opinion. I've been relatively safe thus far. But I'm gonna go with Julius Walker to kick off the main card. How you feeling, man?
That's interesting. I'm playing it safe. I'm taking Alonso Menifield in this one. He just puts out a lot of damage to his opponents, and I know he's a little older than his opponent. I know he's had some skids in his career, but I just don't think he's a pushover. I think he's good. I think if it comes down to wrestling, he's not going to get bullied at all. Pretty sure he played, football in high school, if that matters, or anything, or college, wherever it was, at a high level. So he's definitely a strong fighter. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm simple for me. I'm not taking the risk. You could take the risk, and that's fine. That's your choice. I'm gonna take the safe pick today night for Saturday. I'll take Alonso Menifield on this one.
Nah, great pick as always. You can have the next one, most definitely.
All right. So we got the fighting nerds. Everyone's hyped about this one. We got Gene Lord Silva going against Melsik. I'm just gonna call him the Gun or Melsik. I'm not too good with last name, so I don't want to watch this back later and
Bagdasarian. Melsik Bagdasarian. Yeah.
Okay. I hate rewatching these and see how bad I butchered a name or something. Didn't realize. This one's gonna be great. This is two high level Muay Thai guys.
Yep.
I think Melsik is gonna look very good for what people think. I know we think really high of Gene Silva, which we should, respectfully so. I know the odds are very wide, but this is going to be a very good fight. These dudes are going to be exchanging. I think the difference is the IQ of Gene Silva, and the skill level, of course. I think he is higher skill level. I just think it's going to be harder at some points to show it in this fight. Just in a Muay Thai fight, they're going to want to both be better strikers. I think where Gene Silva separates himself is his IQ, like I said, and just how he reads the fight in live time. That's what separates a fighter, is someone who could stop mid-fight. Not stop fighting, they still fight, but they just really analyze what's going on and how to adjust. And he does that mid-rounds. He listens to his coaches too. which is great. Fight Nerds has great coaching, great game plans. If he needs to wrestle, I think he could definitely use his wrestling in this fight. So Melsiki is on a 2-year layoff, but I don't think that's going to really matter personally. 33, it's a great age to be fighting at still. Yeah, I'm going to take Gene Silva to win this one by a decision.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's another agreement. I just can't go against Gene Silva with his power on the feet. He broke his hands, both of his hands, punching Drew Dober in the face. You feel me? And we saw how he finished the fight. How he had Dober dancing at one point. That was just horrific to watch. It was just crazy to watch that. Beautiful sportsmanship at the end when he was crying for Dober. I really enjoyed watching them really, give each other respect and stuff. He's a really nice guy. He's always hugging the opponents in between rounds sometimes, because he knows he's a killer. You see him woof before he goes to the cage. I really love his walkouts because he'll slow the card down and really make it more cinematic. So I love watching Gene Silva fight, and I think he'll win by decision in this one. Be the better striker, hit harder, be faster. And just really assess the distance better. You might have a rough first round. You might see it be more competitive because most like that like those fast twitch muscle fibers, like his kicks are devastating. But I just think Gene Silva's like better in his recent performances, and I do think he'll win the fight via decision.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This is gonna be a good one. This has some award on it. Fight of the night, performance on something's on here. You know what I mean? That's just a good fight right there. We also have a very good fight right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah, this one's pretty crazy. I've seen a lot of people split on this one. It's a good fight, man. It's a good fight. Because some people aren't that high. Like you're either high on Gene Matsumoto or you're not. I like Matsu. I think he's really good. I think he has a lot of potential as an undefeated fighter in this weight class at bantamweight. Some people don't really like his takedowns like that. They think he should be more stronger with the physicality and getting the fight to the ground. We know Rob Font has like a 40% takedown defense, so we know that if there is one way that Gene's gonna win this fight, it will be by wrestling him, getting the control time. But Rob Font is obviously the way better striker in this fight. He's fought the way better competition in this matchup. It just depends who can really implement their game plan first. Gene Silva is taking this on short notice. Originally this was supposed to be Dominic Cruz, but Cruz had to pull out after not only pull out, had to retire after hurting his shoulder. Love you, Dominic. One of the greatest fighters of all time. Future Hall of Famer, without a doubt. Hasn't been announced yet, but it is on the way for certain. Probably happened around UFC 321, something around there. But yeah, for this one, it's a close one. It's a close one, man. I was thinking about it all week. I know it's only Wednesday night as we record this, but damn, man. Because Matsu's taking this on short notice. Like, he's putting his O on the line, man. Like, on short notice like that. But he's the better grappler for sure. But he can get boxed up in this fight. I think it's going to go to a split decision. Can you still hear me? My bad.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that I didn't mute myself.
No, you're good.
I didn't go with my gut last week when I wanted to pick Cannonier in the main event. You feel me? This week I'm gonna go with my gut, man. Like how I've been saying, I'm gonna do all 2025. Fuck. I think Matsumoto's gonna come in here and get a victory, bro. I think he's gonna come in here and honestly, like, just snatch the ranking. I think he's ready for this moment. I think he wouldn't have taken this fight on short notice if he wasn't ready. Yeah, like, he's not the better striker, but like, I think he can get the fight to the ground. Hopefully, he won't gas out. I do think he will be able to get robbed. The ground we know Rob's a really good fighter. We've seen fighters lose their O's recently. It can happen. These guys are not invincible. This is not about auras and stuff like that. Auras happen off like the performances that have taken place inside of the octagon, on top of being undefeated. Matsumoto's looked all right, but I think this is the fight where it's either make or break for him in this fight right here, right now. This is most definitely his biggest step up in competition. I was gonna go with Matsumoto. You feel me? I think he'll come out here, get the fight to the ground, win off control time. Hopefully, not take that much damage. We know Rob Font doesn't have that much power. We've seen him get KOs like with Adrian Yanez, but I think Yanez didn't really utilize a good game plan in that fight. I think Matsu will have way better defense and really just prioritize his strengths and avoid his weaknesses. Pretty cerebral fighter, in my opinion. And I'm gonna go with Matsumoto. But how you feeling?
Yeah, man. Great breakdown. Great pick. I had trouble with this one, and it's like even more now that you made that pick. Because on one hand, you got a great, great elite boxer in Rob Font, someone where you're not going to just be able to wrestle without taking damage from. Um, I just like I see this fight being bloody and fucking messy, dude, and just scrappy as fuck. Um, like Gene's gonna have to really get in there and take some hits. You're not gonna be able to just shoot on a boxer without getting punched a few times in the damn face. Um, Rob Font's so good at striking and landing his punches and slipping and just working the cage. Um, Matsumoto is a great wrestler. He also has that Muay Thai, so he's gonna be able to stand. He's not gonna win. Like obviously, Gene wins on the ground. Rob wins on the feet. There's no debate about that. It's really how you want to put this. It's only 3 rounds. Um, and these kind of fights, if Rob isn't stuffing the takedowns, which he isn't, super elite at, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard. I originally picked Rob Font. Honestly, I have it written down here on my notes, but when you got a wrestler and they're able to successfully take you down, control time 3 minutes, a round turns into a lot of control time, sways the judges. My original argument for Rob Font was that he's gonna be landing clean combinations that's just swaying the crowd, swaying the judges. But then at the same time, I mean, dude's on top of you, and those significant strikes add up, or maybe gets in a submission or something. I don't know. I'm gonna just I picked Rob Font, so I'll stay with Rob Font by decision, but it's not a confident pick. Like this is like a 50-50 fight, and I mean that. Like we call other fights 50-50 just because it's two like power hitters. No, this one's 50-50. They
Off
could
the
really go
skill.
anywhere. Yeah, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
just gonna say this dude will lose his O just because other dudes have lost their O this year. That doesn't really matter for me. But yeah, I'll just keep it with Rob Font for now. I think this will be a good fight. Excited to watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me and you both. Most definitely. And moving on to the co-main event, you can go ahead and pick first in this fight. I'm gonna go use the restroom right quick.
You're good. You're good. So we got an evenly matched rematch, 7 years in the making. We got Brandon All in Allen versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Um, I've watched the fight, the rematch, but it is 7 years ago. Both fighters are very different from what they were. Um, they're just completely different fighters, way more experience. It was in a whole other division, so you could imagine all the experience they have in the UFC, how it changed them and their different paths. Anthony Hernandez has lost to Kevin Holland. He got put out by Kevin Holland in that fight. I think it was like knees to the body or something. Um, Both fighters, obviously, they excel on the ground. They're great grapplers. Brandon Allen is more known for chasing his submissions. He works great off the back. But he hunts his submissions. That's what he chases. When he's on the ground, he's looking to finish the fight. Anthony Hernandez, he's more controlling of a fighter. He's going to try to get on top of you. He's going to try and control you. He's going to try and drain all your energy out. Then he'll go for his submissions. Then he'll go for his ground and pound. Um, but Anthony Hernandez has looked so good in the UFC to me. Brandon Allen's good, but he has something about him where it's not that he leaves it on the table, but he's leaving something, and I don't know what it is necessarily. But with
Mm-hmm.
Fluffy, it's just like I feel like he's the whole fighter he is. I feel like maybe Brandon Allen, maybe there's another level he could get to. But But I just think right now Fluffy is better of a mixed martial artist. I think he's a better UFC fighter right now by a little bit because they're both. Like I said, it's very evenly matched. Um, yeah, and then Fluffy on the feet. To talk about the feet real quick, because we just talked about how the ground's gonna go. To talk about the feet, Anthony's just very simple on the feet. You know, simple combinations. Doesn't take much damage, and then he has great cardio. So it's really hard to just pick against him in this one. Like I said, not even going off the rematch. You know, the first fight. I'm just gonna take Anthony Hernandez to win this one. This is 3 rounds, so I'll pick a decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here. I just think Anthony's riding high off the momentum right now. He won the first fight as a way less better version of himself, and obviously he's improved leaps and bounds. They both have just becoming UFC fighters. It's really crazy when because Brennan could have fell off, and just became a random regional scene guy, and he made his way to the UFC as well, and it's crazy to really see their paths really cross again like that, So, I do think that Anthony Hernandez has improved a lot since his LFA days. And I think he's going to come out here, not going to dominate win. I think it'll be fairly competitive, especially in the first round. But I think that he will get the takedowns. I'll come round to start to really wrestle him up against the cage, really get the control time more and more, and really have the decisive scrambles, the decisive wins and the scrambles to get the fight to the ground. Get his back here and there. Take his back, maybe try to even attempt a submission. I don't think he'll sub Brendan Allen. I think Brendan's a really good jiu-jitsu artist. But we'll see how it goes. Anthony might be able to get the submission, but I think that's the biggest boldest play of this whole fight is if there are any bettors out there. I think if you're betting on Anthony by sub inside the distance. But I think it's gonna go to a decision. I think Anthony's gonna win it via that way, and just really continue on the horse. Keep going to his title shot. We know that Brendan Allen lost to Nasruddin Imavov, who is now the #1 contender. So, if Brendan wins this fight, there isn't really much more to go. He could try to get a rematch with Imavov, but I think it's too early for that to happen. So. I think this is really more for Fluffy. He's the one that can really benefit big from this win. Even though he's fighting down in the rankings, it's still always good to get a win on your record, really get fresh in the people's minds. If he wins this fight, definitely getting a big step up. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a Whitaker versus Hernandez after this. Only on paper, it gets Robert a really, really big step down in competition. And it gives Anthony that really, really needed that big step up in competition. So Robert definitely needs to step down after the Chimaev loss. I would like to see him fight Strickland. Robert could stay fighting at the top of the division where he belongs, of course, but he could fight Strickland, either one of those.
Paulo Costa versus Anthony Hernandez. That's a banker.
That could happen too. That's definitely a feature bout on a pay-per-view. For sure. That could definitely happen. Costa is on a 3-fight losing streak right now, but they pay him so much money, and he's a really fun guy. Always love to have him on the pay-per-views. Gotta keep him on the PVV somehow, but he has to be in big fights to do that, and hopefully he can bounce back in his next one. And Costa knows that himself. He's still young. I think Costa's Paulo's 33 right now. So we'll see if he can bounce back, from his last loss. But either way, of course, he's a good fighter. He lost to Sean Strickland at UFC 310. I'm sure
No, it was 29. No.
It was 302. Makhachev versus Portier.
Oh, yeah.
I was
thinking it was the
February. I don't know why I said 310. This is a long ass time ago. It was on June 10th, I think. I think that's what it was. June 1st. It was on June 1st. But either way, we'll see if Anthony can get the finish, but I think it's better to play him via decision in this one. And moving on to the last fight of the night. But want to thank y'all again for joining us for this amazing card breakdown. I'll also breaking down these fight nights with y'all. What's the next fight on the schedule? I know we have a pay-per-view coming up soon, but do we have? I'm trying to remember if we have fights next weekend.
No, not looking like it.
Actually,
Next week is the it's the 22nd. So we got this weekend. So
yep.
next weekend will be the 20.
Yep, we do. It was supposed to be Cowboy versus Roy Vol, but it's Cop versus Amabayev. And yeah, it's really
Right.
unfortunate. Taking a look on this card right now, we have some decent fights on it. Nasrat Haqparast versus Esteban Ribovics. That's a banger. Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. Like I was mentioning, the heavyweight specimens, they're on that card as well. Got the debut of Mario Pinto coming out of Portugal. Really excited to see how he's gonna fare in his UFC debut. I was excited to see him on Contender Series. Really rare you see a young heavyweight like him. And him and Taliesin Teixeira, they are most definitely fated to fight one day. 100%, and I cannot wait for that. That's a future UFC heavyweight championship. I'm not, hey, like people can say like that's a hot take, but I think the UFC is gonna build both those guys up, give them the right fights, and they are gonna fight each other in a big fight one day, 1,000%. But of course, keep it with the present main event. The all-time great Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong, the up-and-comer. I'm gonna let you pick first on this main event this time around. Go ahead.
Hell yeah, I appreciate it, brother. Um, so yeah, I'll start with Song Yadong. Very quick, fast, powerful little bantamweight you got over there. That dude hits like a monster. You don't see it coming. He moves around the cage. Now, first things first, he is gonna be way quicker than Cejudo in this fight. We know that. I'm wondering how quick Cejudo is going to look back because I don't think he looks slow. I don't think he looks old. I think the ring rust is gone. So now we're going to see what does 38 years old look like for 3 rounds against someone who's moving like Song Yadong. It's that Team Alpha Male coached by Uriah Faber you were talking about earlier. He has a fight coming up. Great coach. Got some great fighters in the UFC. Song Yadong is coming in 11 years younger. Big difference there. Fighting is the younger man's sport. We didn't see that last week with Cannonier, just because you never could predict what happens in the UFC. Cejudo obviously has a tremendous wrestling advantage in this one. Great in the stand-up. There's no bad part about Cejudo's game in my opinion. Sometimes at this point, maybe in those last two fights, mixing his martial arts wasn't looking the best, but he still looked good wrestling. He still looked good striking. Now it's almost 2 years since his return to the octagon. Fights at Fight Ready MMA. I love them over there. Got Santino DeFranco coaching. I'm a big fan of his. I'd love to get him on the podcast one day. That's like one of the things I want. I'm a big fan. I've been watching him for years. Yeah, they got some good athletes over there. Tracy Cortez is over there. They got Cejudo. They got some other people. I think the ring rust is gone. Like I said, I think Cejudo could come out here and do this. Really show the experience, show the veteran. I think he looked great in the Aljo fight. Like I told you that a million times, Antoine. Like I think he looked so good in the Aljo fight. I think he arguably won it. He just needed to do a little more, man. He just needs to do like one thing more, and he could have stole that fight. He looked so good in that fight. Merab, I'm not gonna even like. What's the point? Merab is on top of the world at this point. There's no point of even like trying to nitpick it. Yeah, I think if we get the Cejudo we're supposed to get, he should really be able to control Song Yadong as a human. Like he should be able to get his hands on him and control him. I know people are picking Song Yadong for the knockout, and Cejudo's been put out before, but a long time ago, very long time ago, and he was young. That was at 125 too. Very skinny, more successful to be knocked out. I'm gonna take Cejudo to win this one by decision, man. Just trust the gut. That's what I'm picking. That's what I'm comfortable in. Pick Cejudo's last 3 fights or the last 2 fights. So hopefully this one pans out, man. How you feeling?
Yeah, man. Great breakdown. Absolutely. The biggest thing about this fight for me, is that like it's just like Henry's inspiration, man. I think that he feels like his like I think that he thinks that people are trying his legacy. You know, that's why I mentioned his legacy at the top of the show. And I think that he doesn't like that, man. Like all these new bantamweights that came along after him. I really thought he was gonna run away with the bantamweight title. He was 33 years old at UFC 249 when he defended the title. So the runway was cleared for takeoff for Henry Cejudo, and that pissed Dana White off when he retired. Best believe it, because he was finally gonna get what he wanted, but he left it on the table. Like he could have, negotiated for a new contract. And I think coming out of the pandemic, like with those new fans and stuff, Henry would have been massive in my opinion. Especially still having coming off the double champ status and stuff, and still being an active champion at the time. And he was a fun champion as well. You very unique fighting style. So for this fight in particular, I don't know, like. I think with this game plan, I think he can take the right approach in this matchup. Really try to implement his wrestling. He knows how big of a fight this is for his career. If we're being honest, like Henry's like the A side, kind of like the main character in this fight. He's the one that's the great, one of the greatest fighters you've ever seen inside of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. People don't really realize how big of a deal it is to really have an Olympic gold medal and two-time. It really is extremely substantial for anyone who's ever played a sport or anything like that. It is the Olympics, the most world-class sports competition literally in the entire world. And to win that at 21 years old and then win because the UFC belts, the UFC still only 31, 32 years old. It started in 93, so it's 32 years old. And 30, 40 years from now, and when the UFC is when Henry Cejudo he's 38 right now. When Henry Cejudo is 57 years old, he's gonna really be seen as one of the greatest ones to ever do it, 100%. And it's unfortunate, seeing even these two losses he took recently with Marat. I mean, I get it, he lost 2 champions. You feel me? 2 dudes that are also in the record books right beside his name, But for Henry right now, I just think all he has to do is really implement the right game plan in this matchup. I think he's looking for the right moment to maybe exit the sport. I think he wants to go out on a win. If you were to win this fight, I'd be pretty hard pressed to see him keep fighting and try to go on and win a title and be the champion at 39 and defend the belt and all that, So getting to my pick in this one, of course, analyzing the styles, how you mentioned, Song Yadong's a great striker, really athletic, super athletic striker, pretty dynamic as well, has great body shots, good boxing, good leg kicks, good body kicks. With Henry, he's a great boxer as well, of course, known for his wrestling. Freestyle doesn't really work as good as folk style does in the octagon, but Henry's of course, he's done both wrestling, freestyle, and folk style. It's just in the Olympics, his event was freestyle wrestling. So I think with this one, in this fight in particular, he's coming in at a size disadvantage. Song's 5'8" to Henry, who's 5'4". So Henry is gonna have to hold him down, work really, really hard to hold him down. We did see Petr Yan, a striker predominantly, be able to hold down Song Yadong when the going got tough at UFC 299. And I think just with that alone, seeing that, I think Henry will be able to get the fight to the ground enough to win the fight. Don't get me wrong, it's gonna be hard for him to wrestle 5 rounds at 38 years old. But I think that he'll be able to pressure Song Yadong through the 5 rounds, continue to be aggressive. We're going to see if his striking has really dwindled or not, if he'll be able to really get out, really use his karate stance. Because, of course, we all know Henry's also a karate fighter as well. Karate and wrestling is a pretty crazy combination. Hopefully, he'll be able to close the distance with his striking. Really cerebral fighter. One of the best we've ever seen, like I said. And I think he'll be able to get it done, man, with his wrestling predominantly. Get him up against the cage, really get the fight to the ground, and really play it smart. It's his gas tank is the only thing that scares me at almost 40 years old in the bantamweight division. He has to do so much just to cut the weight, man. Just to cut the weight, and to get down and then compete, rehydrate after that. It's difficult, man. And after years of athletics on your body, That's what I'm saying. I think he's looking for the right moment to exit the sport, and I think he's gonna get it this Saturday night. And I do think we'll see him in the 5th round, getting his hand raised off a split decision. It might be a really good fight. You never know. It could be like a really, really good fight. It just depends if like the striking. It really all depends on the striking disparity. But to close out this podcast, I was gonna go with Henry Cejudo to win via decision, via split decision. I think we'll get a really, really good main event. And if Song Yudong loses, it'll be to one of the greatest of all time. And I think it'll be the last loss he'll take before going on his run to challenge for the bantamweight title.
I love it, man. That was a great breakdown card we did just there, man. We did good.
Yeah,
Like
man.
always.
We'll see if he can get it done, man. Like, I'm nervous, man. Like, I'm nervous. Like, when he makes the walk, I'm gonna be nervous during that main event, man. Like, best believe it. Like, if he can really come out and get it done like that, like at an older age, one of the legends, the dude that was so funny, all these antics at being at the top of the division, like, 2 divisions, like, no one can ever take that away from him. Like, because I remember watching the embeddeds after 227, he was getting pushed in the wheelchair by his older brother because his foot was messed up. And he said, man, he said, I'm a Hall of Famer. No, I think that was after he won the 2nd belt. I think, yeah, when he said, I'm a Hall of Famer, like, man, I'm a Hall of Famer, man. Like, it really hit him in the wheelchair. I'm a Hall of Famer. And then, like, his brother said, you were a Hall of Famer after the first one, Canal. It's, calling him like brother and stuff. And he said, yeah, like, and he could have been right after that. Like, he could have been a Hall of Famer after he won the flyweight and defended the flyweight. Just Henry Cejudo, former flyweight champion, this and that. Like, nah, man. When he's one of the 4 fighters, like, in there with Daniel Cormier, Amanda Nunes, and the notorious Conor McGregor, you feel me? Not calling him notorious off like, his fame, the notorious Conor McGregor, you feel me? Perfect nickname, as always, one of my favorites. So yeah, man. Like, that's it. Great card. I'm excited to watch it. It lost a lot of fights, like I said. That lets you know how good of a fight night it really would have been. Damn near would have felt like a free pay-per-view. There's no gold at the end of it. Of course, gotta love the gold. Gotta love the possibility of a belt changing hands. That's always entertaining. Always love watching that. And it's literally what the Ultimate Fighting Championships are built off. So I want to thank y'all again for joining us. For those that watched it in silence or that put anything in the chat like the man Persian missed. Do you want to answer his question? He did ask us, do we think that Anton Turkalj deserved to be cut? I mean, I never want to see anybody lose their job. You feel me? He didn't really have the best performances inside the UFC when he was still here. But either way, I think he's still a good fighter on the regional scene. At least he had a lot of finishes. He had a crazy spinning back fist finish before getting signed and stuff. So, I mean, he could always come back. You never know. You feel me? But either way, like I said, I never like to see any man, especially in this economy, lose their job. You feel me? So I wish him nothing but the best. And I hope he does come back to the UFC. I know a lot of people didn't like, I'm not going to say his nickname, but a lot of people didn't like him and stuff like that. But he was a good fighter, though, in my opinion, on the regional scene. Definitely struggled in the UFC for sure. But yeah, either way, want to thank y'all again for joining us. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the MMAHOLICS podcast. Is there anything left you have to say, Nikki, or is that it?
That's it, man. I'm ready to fill my stomach with some food and get ready for some sleep.
I got you. Rest up, man, and heal that foot, most definitely.
Oh yeah.
Thank y'all for joining us on episode 40. Catch us back for 41 for the Cop versus Roy Val. Gonna continue to build the consistency like how we said we would. Continue to get those subs up day by day, little by little, brick by brick. And y'all have a nice night. God bless y'all.
Peace, guys.